This assignment was for me to identify a dish that describes the culture and identity of Trinidad and Tobago. For me, that dish was bacon and shark. Mainly because bacon and shark is straight Trinbagonian. It has nobody else that is attached to it. It has nobody else that does anything similar to it. So it sells itself on its own. So let me tell you about my seasoning that was just added to that shark. This is what Trin is called green seasoning. Bandania, pimento peppers, garlic, escallion, onions, a little bit of hot pepper was blended together to give me that nice marinade. In this tablespoon, I have 1 teaspoon of fish seasoning, half teaspoon of all-purpose, and half teaspoon of black pepper to add to that marinade there. No additional salt will be added as both fish seasoning and all-purpose already have salt. So here I go throwing it in, trying to get that fish nice and seasoned. Shark has its own flavor and its own smell. If it's not seasoned right, then it won't taste right. So you must get that seasoning down pack. So here I am mixing it in, making sure everything got a little thing on it. Just gonna set it aside, let it marinate while I go about making my dough. In my bowl here, I have 4 cups of flour, a teaspoon and a half of yeast, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and a tablespoon of butter, regular butter. I'm also going to add a teaspoon of salt, right? Normally, you just do a teaspoon of baking powder to a cup of flour if you are not using yeast. But because I'm using yeast, I decided to cut that measurement of baking powder in half. So here I am just mixing in my butter, butter nice and smooth inside my flour. Get it all rubbed in, preparing to add my water and stuff. So just rubbing in that butter nice and smooth. Make sure everything gets a little bit of it. Now I'm gonna add some lukewarm water. To this recipe, 4 cups of flour, I used 1.5 cups of lukewarm water. Room temperature water could also be used. Hot water is a no-no if you're using yeast. That basically will kill the yeast. You will not get the finish you're looking for. So my preference is lukewarm water. So I'm just there mixing in my flour, trying to get my dough all in together. Yeah, mixing, trying to get that dough together. I know some persons wouldn't consider this ideally needed, but it's how I learned to make dumpling. So I use the same steps to make the dough with anything I am making. So here I am kneading in my flour, trying to get it nice and soft. Get everything together. Just now, gonna add a little oil over the dough. I am not quite sure what that is for, but that's the way I learned to make it. So that's the method I continued using. Just mixing that flour there, get that dough nice and soft. Knead it in together. Gotta put it to rest for a little while. When you're gonna put the dough to rest, it's advisable that you put a damp cloth over it. For me, I have used any kind of cloth, it still works. But here, my bowl has a cover, and because when it's covered, the air will still be entrapped, so I am going to use my cover. Just going to let that dough rest for a little while I go and start frying my fish. Here, I have a mixture of seasoned flour and seasoned water. Fish all marinated and ready. I dip in the flour, then add to the water, then add it back to the flour. This is my personal preference again because it gives me the finish that I like. I will be repeating this step with each slice of fish until all is finished and ready to fry. My oil is already on the stove hotting. It's getting hot. It's now ready. See, I have my garlic frying in the pot. Normally I would have pepper as well, but my children will be eating from this, so no pepper was added. Also added a few pieces of thyme. So we're just gonna let that shark fry until it's a little golden brown. Doesn't take long, maybe about 2-3 minutes, and it's ready. Taking out that shark now to rest on the napkin so that the oil can be removed. Now we're gonna go and organize the bake. Bake, if you realize my dough has doubled in size. Here I am just gonna make my dough balls. What I also like about this dish is that it has no separations in it. There's no difference with the race that does it. There's no difference with the kind of people that eat it. No creed, no race, nothing is involved in this. This is just a dish that almost everybody who is anybody in Trinidad likes. Make out all my dough balls. Just gonna prepare to roll them out to make my bake. I'm gonna roll out all my bakes and put them aside. Reason being, it makes it a lot easier when it's frying. It's shallow frying I will be doing with the bake. So shallow frying tends to burn a little easier and faster. Therefore, it's easier to just have the bake ready to go. Once that oil gets too hot, that bake will definitely burn. Here we go now. This oil is nice and hot. Once it's hot enough, not too hot, just right, that bake will start to rise in no time. You just allow your bake to fry on each side until you have achieved your desired color. Me personally, I don't like it too brown. I like my bake nice and soft, so I just allow it to cook for maybe a minute or two. Then remove it from the pot. Let's get that nice and brown and sexy. Bake was one of the first meals, Trinidadian food that I ever eaten in Trinidad. I was here for a long while and didn't eat the food. But then I ate bake and I liked it. So I continued to learn about it. Shark too was one of the things that we do not eat in Jamaica so often. I don't hear about those things. So when I came to Trinidad and saw people eating it, it took me a while before I actually tasted it, and then I did. This dish in itself describes everything about Trinidad. The flavors bounded together just to make one thing. Everything about it is just different and unique. And it all spells Trinbago. So there goes my shark, my bake, my preferred vegetables. Any vegetables, if you go up Maracas Bay, can be added to this dish. All of them is there. Any sauce you could think about is there. Shadow penny, tamarind sauce, garlic sauce, ketchup, mustard. Everything is there.